Hi, I'm Professor Green, and today we'll be talking about organizational behavior, Chapter 1, an introduction to organizational behavior. I'm excited to take this course with you or lead you through this course. It's my absolute favorite because I did my second master's in organizational communications, which allowed me to really deep dive into what it means for people to work within an organization. So let's go through the slides and break down what it is that we'll be studying this semester. I'm not going to put it in slideshow mode so that you can see what's coming up next, and also I can see the screen and my video at the same time. So the learning objectives for this chapter are first define what is organizational behavior, right? So maybe some of you know already, but maybe some of you don't know. If you've had any type of work experience, you most likely have engaged with organizational behavior, but you might not have realized that. So we're going to define that. And once you realize what it is, you'll, I think, very quickly see how important it is in the workplace. Then we're going to apply critical thinking standards to human behavior, because when I took this course, when I was in MBA school and business school, I kind of thought this was, second nature, logical. Why do we need to study this? It's because we actually analyze and look deeply as to how humans work and prioritize work. And so critical thinking skills allow us to more efficiently analyze that and get results that we can then help an organization move forward in the future. And then the last thing we're going to do is explain how principled decision frameworks are used to make ethical decisions. This part actually we're going to skip because you take a whole course here at LMU about ethical decision making. So we're just going to do the first two out of the three pieces of this chapter. And I will leave that to Professor Thies or Professor Daggett, whoever it is that you have for ethics and sustainability. The questions, though, when you think about this, that you might have already come to mind when you think about organizational behavior are, why are some people motivated and successful in what they do, and why do others struggle? So as you can see, now we're starting to think critically about people in your organization. And as I said, maybe some of you have thought about these things before. You've been in a leadership role and you've been forced to do that, but maybe some of you just never thought about it. Well, there's actually a science that does this, and that's called organizational behavior. Why are some people fulfilled and satisfied with their jobs? Why or why not? We're going to spend a lot of time this semester understanding what motivates you, how you can become fulfilled and satisfied in your job, because not only is that good for you, but that's good for the organization. Why do some teams consistently demonstrate cooperation and cohesion while other teams disagree and flounder? This is what keeps me up at night. I'm not going to lie to you. I think a lot about, why one team that I'm part of is doing so well, why another team is not. This is what really I find interesting, why I decided to study a second master's in this. As you know, I have a general MBA in international business with a focus in international business. But then 15 years later, I went back to get a second master's in this because I really want to deep dive into understanding how organizations work and how they communicate. So, and the last thing is what we talk about in this course is, why are some managers and leaders especially effective at encouraging great performance while other leaders fail to exert meaningful influence? And again, even if you've had a part-time job in high school, you can very quickly on your hand say, the top, you probably had 2 or 3 maybe managers that have been great, but you probably had maybe 4 or 5 that are not that great. So why are some so awesome and why are some not? So here are some answers to the questions. They can be found, as I briefly mentioned already, in OB, as we'll call it, organizational behavior. And that, as I said, OB seeks to understand, explain, and predict how people act and interact with others in organizational systems. And again, what is organizational behavior about? It's about people who seek fulfillment in their lives and jobs in a variety of ways and in uncertain times. This is very mainstream for people of your generation, for millennials going forward. This was not mainstream for people of my generation. It is now, but not when we started our careers. My dad has his master's as well in organizational behavior. And it was really revolutionary when he was getting his degree in the early 70s. He was really curious about creating fulfillment in his life and in other people's lives, but actually he had a hard time finding someone to help him with his thesis during his PhD, because there are not that many people out there who were interested in this field. It wasn't very mainstream. OB is about the challenges of leadership, ethics, globalization, technology, diversity, work-life balance, and many other social issues. Again, these words are common for you. OB is about how our complex, ever-changing environment requires people and organizations to continuously adapt and improve in the quest for promising futures. So again, change. This was, again, not normal in an organization of 40, 30 years ago. When I got hired right out of MBA school, I got hired because I was curious about change management, but not everybody was. And I joined an organization, Citibank, that was constantly changing. It was in a time of enormous growth for Citi. And so they were looking for people who could manage that growth. But now, because of the pandemic, because of AI, because of a handful of different things, fourth industrial revolution that we're in now, we all are going through change at a rapid pace. And so everybody needs to get used to change management. And that's why organizational behavior is a required course in business school. Let's go ahead, make sure I have all my notes here. Organizational behavior, some of the learning objectives, as deep diving now into them. Defining its importance in the workplace. What does that mean? Defining the essential nature of organizational behavior, what it is and what it isn't. Explain the importance, why we understand. What we're going to do is why do we study this area? Also, what are the trends in the world concerning the nature of work, and what are we looking at today when we talk about vital topics within organizational behavior? We're not necessarily going to worry so much a little bit about maybe about unions, which would be a popular topic in 40 years ago, but now there are many more topics, right? When we talk about work-life balance, diversity, etc. A little bit of a preview. We'll get to that in a minute. Whether you're talking about accountants, lawyers, musicians, carpenters, engineers, etc., they are all concerned about how they perform and how satisfied they are in their work. Just this morning, I got a call from my cousin in Switzerland, and he's having an issue with his band, with his business partner. He's a pretty established saxophone player out of Paris. And he has a business partner. He's in his late 50s, let's say, and he has a business partner and they're not getting along. That's organizational behavior, right? It's a guitar player. They're about to go on tour. They just finished an album. I help them with their production management as a side hustle. And he needed someone to talk him through what were the best next steps for his organization. What was he going to do next? Was he going to separate from his business partner? What was he going to do in the future? How was he going to handle the upcoming concerts, etc.? So as you can see, it's not just Citibank, it's not just IBM who's worried about these issues. It's any type of organization or partnership. Also, the footprint includes the systematic study of organizational, and it helps us to understand why, right? Why are we having such issues, right? That's what I had to talk to him about. Why was his business partner so upset? He wasn't feeling respected. He wasn't feeling like he had enough artistic freedom. He has a drinking problem, actually. So there are lots of different issues that went into what was going wrong within their small organization. And so here that we talk about, it's the study of human behavior in an organization. It focuses on individuals, teams, interpersonal. There's a huge overlap into interpersonal communications. Again, my master's was under the umbrella of the communications department. And I had colleagues and professors who did their studies in interpersonal, because there's so much overlap between that and what happens within an organization. And organizational structures, we'll study a little bit about that, flat versus tall organizations, just so you have a framework. A lot of these things in my mind are really the ABCs of organizations, but just make sure we're all on the same page with that. And it's an interdisciplinary body of knowledge with strong ties to behavioral and social sciences, psychology, sociology, anthropology, economics, and political science. So if any of you have studied that in your undergrad or had a minor in that, these terms and ideas will become much more familiar. Why is it so important? Is because it includes personality, motivation, organizational culture, ethics, teamwork, leadership, power, communication, negotiation, decision-making. If you ask any leader these days, what's the most important out of, the bottom line, the finances, the people, or, your material that you have or your product, right? The most important thing to the highest value of any organization are the people, right? Because they are what makes everything happen on a regular basis. They make the profits, they make the losses. And so we've come to understand that it is just so important to learn and understand how people are treated and affected within an organization every day. It'll provide a foundational knowledge about human behavior and prepare you to adapt and thrive in a dynamic and complex workplace. The trends in the workplace and the importance of networking, right? I talk a lot about that. I grew up networking with my dad, who was a career coach. That's how he transferred his studies in organizational behavior. He worked in human resources management consulting for about 20 years and then went to go work, as you know, for Georgetown and GW in their career centers. He loves networking. I love it too. Really important. I find a lot of value in getting to know others, understanding what they need, and then having them understand what I need. It's an art. Connecting, ideating, right? Coming up with ideas, brainstorming, collaborating, linking, right? Linking ideas, linking people, supporting people, supporting ideas, seeking, right? Seeking information, seeking new job opportunities, and innovating, right? That's all what we're about these days with the fourth industrial revolution. Who's going to be the first with the next innovation? And so how does organizational behavior show up in your workplace, right? Besides these strategic big ideas. First, human resources, as I just mentioned, my dad went into human resources consulting. So you'll see that the people within your organization who work in HR, they are very concerned about these ideas on a regular basis. Career development, employee motivation. You'll also see it as a subset of HR is usually training and development, that we have professors here at LMU who have done their PhDs explicitly in training and development. I too had a professor who helped me on my thesis. Her focus was on training and development. And I worked as a trainer in the corporate environment early in my career. And I really find that area very interesting because organizations are trained to motivate and empower others in the workplace. They understand the needs of adult learners and they can balance the needs with the goals of management. So matching up what the organization needs and where there are gaps and how they can make sure that those employees fill those gaps with new skills. Employee relations management. This is where we talk about people officers, so people who represent the employees, solving problems between individual staff members. And that's kind of a cool role. It's, again, kind of a new role in organizations. You won't see it in every organization, but it's a really nice one because it's, a place for employees to have a voice, have a main point of contact to management and be able to voice things that they need to. Here at LMU, we have the provost, who's really that person. Thomas Poon, he hears what the faculty and the staff need and what they're saying, and he then communicates that to the president. And management consulting, as I said, where my dad went, but there are lots of different firms that are hired by organizations to analyze the operations. I did that for a long time, identify opportunities for improvement, recommend changes. So you can drop into different organizations and give them your thoughts and your feedback as to how they can improve their HR or their organizational behavior methodologies. And success in your career. So how is this going to help you today? You're going to continuously, hopefully, be learning continuously. You're going to need to continuously pay attention to trends, because now with an MBA, you're going to become a manager most likely, and you'll need to know and understand what are the trends in the workplace. You need to understand what are the major practices. We're going to talk about these. What are the opportunities for you, for yourself and for your employees to move the organization forward? So what people need, want, expect, and value at work, right, are the special interest of organizational behavior. Critical trends, as I briefly mentioned earlier in the modern workplace, are focus on a good life, right? We want this work-life balance, because especially here in America, we become obsessed with productivity, with efficiency, with spending a lot of time at work. Now, how can we make sure that we have a personal life, that we have time to spend with our families? Another big issue when it comes to organizational behavior is DEI, which you're all familiar with, remote and hybrid work, right? The pandemic has forced us to tackle this. So many organizations are not sure still what they're going to do. The banking industry is much more conservative. They want people back in the office. The tech industry, for the most part, is fine with people working from home, but even Salesforce is saying that that's not the complete solution. So where is this middle ground? Every organization needs to figure that out for themselves. And then the importance of connections and networks, right? Work is increasingly being done through personal connections and networks, right? I've changed jobs 7 or 8 times in my career. Every single job I've gotten is through a personal connection. And obviously I have a very nice resume to back that up, but really important to have those contacts. Commitment to transparency and ethics, as we speak about a lot here at LMU. And then new demands on leaders and managers. So to the ability to work remotely, interest in sustainability and social justice. And as you know, this textbook is not written by an author from LMU, where we talk a lot about social justice here. This author is from a totally different university, a public university, actually, in Texas. And, this issue shows up, sustainability and social justice, in every university, every workplace now. LMU just takes it very, very seriously. And as we say, less concerns for traditional indicators of successful career progressions are new demands in today's managers. So people are not necessarily like my dad's generation climbing the corporate ladder very, very quickly. People are making side steps, taking breaks, changing careers, right? Many, many times. I've also changed careers 3 or 4 times. That is the norm. And so, yeah, working from anywhere, right? What will be the new realities of where, when, and how people work? How can companies establish and maintain culture? So we'll talk a lot about culture and how important it is to an organization. And if you're now not seeing and touching people on a regular basis, how can we really have that culture? And how do we learn about organizational behavior? So this I'm going to take a break here in just a minute and create another video for you, but let's take 2 more slides. This talks about experimentation. How do we, initial experience, reflections, which we do a lot, which is, important to the Jesuit tradition, but highly valued in any workplace. And then theory building. So theories from readings, theories from lectures, personal theories, and theories from other sources. So these the content and activities of the typical OB course and how they fit together in this experiential learning cycle. And so as you'll see, that we'll talk a lot about your experiences. That's why I think it's so important to have work experience before you have the MBA, because you really understand at least a little bit more, how things are done in different organizations, right? Even the classroom is an organization. The university, obviously, is an organization. We will also try and experiment things, trying new behaviors at work, in the class, and in everyday experiences. This is one of those courses which I love, because the minute you step outside of the classroom, at 10:01 each evening, you will be able to implement these ideas because they show up not only at work, but in your personal life. And we will spend a lot of time reflecting. I have self-assessments built into the curriculum, so you can reflect again on your personal thoughts, the class discussions. Let me do the slideshow just so we can all see it. In informal discussions, you can reflect on the readings, the lectures, and your written assignments. Great. And so here we are, experiential learning and OB. This is the last slide to this first part of this video. We're going to think of learning as an enduring change of behavior that results from experience. And so also lifelong learning process. This is kind of what I briefly mentioned in the previous slide. When it comes to OB, this course is trying to make points to your life and work experience more meaningful, right? So you'll be able to connect what happens in the workplace to the theories and ideas that we talk about in the classroom. And there's a rich and ever-expanding pool of experiences available, right, at work events and activity. Every work event, every meeting, every assignment that you'll do at work, you will be able to be analyzed from an OB perspective, for better or for worse. And it will be the key to your personal and career success, in my opinion, as well as in the author's opinion. So let's go ahead and take a break with this video, and I'll see you in video number 2 from chapter number 1.